It certainly impacts the family. Everybody from the smallest to the oldest child to the spouse has to be in on it, and they have to believe it. We integrated the children in as many things as possible. There was a time when they were in every parade and liked throwing out candy, and then I had to jazz it up to get them interested. I let them bring the dog and let them bring a scooter or a skateboard. At one point, we even bought a golf cart just to keep the kids going, and then they got involved in their own world as they grew up. They started having soccer on Saturdays, and when that happened, I had the good sense to say, okay, we're out of the parade business. I'm going to be watching the soccer games. A lot of members of Congress find that harder to do because of district demands or whatever, but I think you have to decide that family's going to come first if you're going to stay, to be not just a father, but be a daddy as well. Fortunately, over the years, I was there for, I think, all of the children's birthdays. My wife and I kind of declared a peace that we would have to work around each other's, but you've got school plays, football games, baseball games. The games that are played on weekends are a lot easier to get to. Baseball game, a little bit harder. Tennis in the middle of the week, that's hard to get to. But the first thing Brianna, our scheduler, would do is at the beginning of the year fill in every single birthday, every single graduation or known big deal event that I needed to be in. And when people said, can you do something on those dates? It was an easy no. One time at New York convention, Republican convention, Vice President Cheney invited me to sit with him in his family box, but I was wanted to make sure that my 16-year-old daughter Ann, who was with us at the time, wanted to make sure she got home safely, and I actually flown home. And looking back, those kind of things are hard to turn down, but you want to be there for those mundane days. You can't just show up for the glory events for your children. You want to be there for the normal things. Another time, and it kind of worked in my favor, Speaker Denny Hastert invited me to go on a trip to Australia and New Zealand. They were doing something regarding energy or trade, and I told him no. I said, Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate it, but I'm going to be driving carpool the next day, and my daughter's got a play coming up. And so he, a day or two later, came back and said, I respect you for saying no to that trip because it would have been 2 weeks. There's a shorter trip that I think you might be interested in, and it was a trip to go on Air Force One with President Clinton. And so I traveled around with President Clinton for 4 or 5 days on a shorter trip and did not have to miss any of the family things, but it was fun because I was on Air Force One. President Clinton was there, Hillary Clinton was there, Chelsea Clinton was there, John Podesta as Chief of Staff, Sandy Berger's National Security Advisor, Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State, Joe Lockhart, his press secretary, and so I had huge access to all of the key Clinton people during that week, and it was a great experience. I went to see the troops in Kosovo and went to a couple of conferences and went to Bulgaria and Italy and Greece, and so but that was because I had the sense enough to turn down the other trip, and so sometimes it works out. I know one time when my daughter Ann was extremely small, I was talking to the sheriff in Bacon County, and she came up and she just wouldn't hold still. And I said, Ann, what's the problem? And she said, Daddy, I want to know, does ladies start with an L? And I said, yes. And she said, good, because I have to go to the ladies' room. So but she couldn't read, but she could recognize the letters. And so she came back in a little while, obviously having mission accomplished. And I said, Ann, did you find the ladies' room? She said, no, I couldn't, Dad. All I could find was a room that had a W on the door, and I went anyhow. And so, you have that. And then my son Jim, very small at the time, we went to a church where we're Episcopalian, now Anglican, and, we don't say much in church ever, not even to your own family after the church. Sometimes you're very stoic. But we went to a church that was more evangelical, more charismatic, and everybody was saying amen every time the preacher got up. Amen, amen. So we'd been working hard on getting the kids, particularly Jim, to keep quiet in church. And he said, Dad, why are they saying amen? I said, well, you're allowed to in this church. And I'm whispering back and forth to him. And, 3 minutes later, he goes, amen, amen, Amen. And so now I'm trying to get him to shut up. He said, no, Dad, you said that could do it. And, that was bad enough. But then a week later, we're back in the Episcopal church, and the preacher goes up to give the sermon, and sure enough, on clock, Jim starts going, amen, amen. And he was just out of range, and I couldn't quite grab him. And, you have those kind of memories from politics that you just can't get over. But it's, and then I know one time Betsy, she was 13, and we were standing in line at the White House picnic, standing in line to meet the president, and she whispers back, Dad, he's got a fake cowboy belt on. That was her whole impression of him, and I remember one time after that, John, my son, probably about 11 or 12 years old, he got to go to the White House picnic, and he met President Clinton, and somebody was criticizing him, the president, and John said to him very straightforward, he said, you know what? And remember, John's 11 years old. He says, he's really not that bad of a guy if you just meet him. And he wasn't, he was just being very sincere about it or not, but that was his impression of meeting the president. And so I don't know, I think there's been a lot of fun moments and educational moments for congressional families, but if you're asking me, who lifestyle, the dad who's home 7 days a week or the mom who's home 7 days a week is going to have a lot more memories, are going to be a lot better off with their children than somebody who's gone 2 to 3 days a week. So, I mean, there's no question about it. There's a huge strain on family.